Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutshaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Daniel Packard. His background is a mechanical engineer, and he's now the CEO of Full Liberation Technology. Can you say hi, Daniel?
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, Bridget.
Thank you for being on, and I'm glad we connected. I like what you're doing, my understanding of how you're trying to help everybody. I was intrigued with your site because it has a tagline of "We don't offer programs, we offer results," right? That really pulled me in, and that's really the goal of helping other people is intriguing them and wanting to get involved. And I guess the first thing that popped into mind, what prompted you to start helping everybody? Since your background is a technologist, how are you helping everybody and why?
It's a good question. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I go, how did I end up here? And even people have asked me, you're a mechanical engineer. What are you doing helping people be happier? And I'm like, well, it's a good story how I ended up here. I'll sort of tell I'll say painful, horrible story that happened to me that led me to the sort of, I guess, the sad realization that the $1 trillion what I call the improvement industrial complex, which is therapy, psychology, spirituality, self help. That's $1 trillion a year industry. And what happened to me sort of brought me to the sad realization that while there's a lot of well intentioned people in this industry, a lot of what's available to people out there who are struggling and want to be happier, at the very least, is designed to keep people stuck, not on purpose, but just it keeps people where they're always striving and trying, but they never are fully free of what holds them back. They're always managing it. And at the very worst, as I'll explain, I think it can actually do harm, and it's being perpetrated by the people that you'd least expect it. And so I want to share what happened to me as a cautionary tale so that your audience knows what to look out for so that they can just be happier faster. And the horrible thing that happened to me was that I fell in love. That's not the horrible part. That's always the good part. We fell in love. She was wonderful and charming. However, she was verbally abusive, and I was too insecure to leave. And so, after 2 years uh, of toxicity, and when the relationship ended, I had crippling, complex PTSD. My anxiety was horrible. My self esteem, my self doubt, my procrastination, my people pleasing, my perfection, all of it was just the worst it had ever been. And so, a lot like your audience, I go looking for help. And I spend 10 years, 100 grand going to therapists, psychologists, gurus, coaches. I was probably in a cult. I was definitely in a cult, ayahuasca, I did all of it, Bridget. And while it helped give me some awareness and some tools to manage it, the fact is after 10 years, I just had this sad realization. I was sitting on a beach in Mexico and I just said, God, I'm still doing this stuff. I'm still anxious. I still procrastinate. I'm still a people pleaser. I still have trauma. And I just had this sort of sad realization of like, I knew it was a test, but I didn't know what the test was. And also, I felt this shame and this guilt. I felt broken. I was losing hope because I knew there was a better version of me that was wanted to come out, but I didn't have consistent access to it. And so I was living this life. I was successful, but I had this life of just unfulfillment because I couldn't solve any of this. And I looked up at the sky to whoever's up there pulling the strings, and I just said, like, what do you want from me? I know this is a test. But what's the test? I've been at this 10 years, 100 grand. Like, what video game are we playing? And I got an answer. I wasn't expecting an answer. I'll tell you what the answer is in a bit. So, because this has a happy ending. But before I tell you kind of what I heard back from whoever's up there pulling the strings, do you have any questions or thoughts on just sort of that first part of my story?
Yeah, what you experienced is actually pretty common, right? But people don't talk about it. And you're sharing that to make them not, I see it as not feel alone, right? And I don't understand why. I know the word guru is definitely overused, and I don't know why people are just, they try to help, but they don't really, maybe they're having problems too, right? That's what I'm thinking. They're not, they think they're helping others, but they're, like you said, they made you get stuck. And That's what was going to my mind. You're not alone, right? That's really what it is. I am one of those. I was a perfectionist. I still kind of am, but I think that's based on the background that I had and being a girl, right? You had to be perfect to put something out there, and that makes people afraid. You're talking to yourself. And I think you at least you're exploring a little bit, like you said, going to Mexico. That kind of helps. At least you're doing that, or not just Mexico, but traveling in general. But that's what popped
Hmm.
into my mind. What your experience is not just you, right? And so you're sharing this to make people feel like they are valued. They need to be okay to reach out for help.
I think what you said is partly just so people understand they're not alone. And in a bit, I'll help people understand that, if you have these patterns and behaviors, whether it's procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism, anxiety, trauma, addiction, when you try to solve it for so long and you can't, you start to feel broken. And what I'm going to explain in a bit is the actual reason that we discovered my company of why people aren't able to be free of their patterns. It's not what you think. And it's so people feel less alone and also less broken. And the only reason I figured out a deeper reason why people weren't changing and solving what holds them back was, when I looked up at the sky and I said, "What do you want from me?" I was just being rhetorically angry. I didn't expect a response, but I got this response. And the response was results matter. And the reason this was meaningful to me, and I knew exactly what it meant, is because when I was 10, my dad sat me down. He was a physicist, and he said, Daniel, anybody can have a theory or an idea, but you don't know who knows what they're talking about or not. It's the person that gets results that you want to pay attention to, and it's the person that gets results that probably knows what's going on better than other people. And he said this phrase that stuck with me, which is results matter. And it was a lot to put on a 10-year-old, but I liked it. This idea that results matter. And I loved, I was a little inventor as a kid. My dad let me use his workshop and I would make things that would work and get results. It was very satisfying solving the puzzles. So I go to engineering school to be properly trained, how to look at a complex problem, break it down into its simple mechanical components. Then you build a prototype. It doesn't work. It doesn't get the results that you want, but then you test and you iterate and you refine until hopefully, if you're good at what you do and you're passionate, you can engineer something that gets consistent results. That's what engineers and inventors are great at. And so when I got this transmission from like God or source, results matter, I realized, this again, the improvement industrial complex and all this money I spent doesn't get great results. It doesn't solve anything, and certainly not quickly, and certainly not systematically. You try one thing, it works for some people, and some people it doesn't. And I just thought, well, wait a minute. This industry just doesn't get great results. It doesn't solve things quickly and systematically. And I'm an engineer. I know how to build systems that get repeatable results. And so part of that desperation, part of, I guess, purpose, I started a research company, Full Liberation Technology, to see could we engineer an emotional internal system that would make it such that people could solve what holds them back in a short period of time. That was the mission. We didn't know if we could do it, but that was the goal. And it took 8 years. It took over $1 million in research and development, working with 3,000 people all over the world. We worked with addicts in South Africa. We worked with entrepreneurs in Europe. We worked with athletes in the US. We worked with business owners all over the world to come up with an understanding of why people struggle that made it solvable, meaning what you're struggling with goes away and doesn't come back. And I was one of the first people that benefited because I was using the early iterations of the tools first. And I remember waking up one morning and I felt suspiciously calm. It was a deep calm. And I thought, ooh, this is new. And I thought it would fade because it always faded. But 1 week goes by, 1 month goes by, 3 months goes by, and I was just consistently calm. No matter what happened to me, calm. And the confidence skyrocketed. Things that I was afraid of, I wasn't afraid of. The people pleasing, it all went away. And my team said, "We did it. We figured it out." And I said, "No, we figured it out for me." But the goal was to create a system that would help millions to scale it up. So that took another several years to take what worked and systematize it to create an online program where everything is included in one place, such that within a short period of time, 6 weeks, if you do work the steps in the order that we have, what you are struggling with, the anxiety, the self-doubt, the people-pleasing, the addiction, the perfectionism, is solved. And what we're most proud of is we have a 90% success rate because we don't want people trying and failing. And so that's what we're bringing to the world is if for people that have behaviors that hold them back and they want to be free of it so that they can fulfill their potential and be that happiest best version of themselves, that's that's what we're bringing to the world.
I like that you said it was online. The first thing that came to mind, is it like in a group setting, or is it just one-on-one, or just probably varies, right?
No, we were very clear in that we wanted to develop something that was scalable, that
Okay.
didn't require being around other people. That's nice. It's nice to have a therapist to talk to. It's nice to
Right.
have a group. But then that makes the quality go down because you don't always know who you're talking to. Also, it's not scalable. If you have to go be
Yeah.
with people,
Right.
it's not scalable. We were working in South Africa in communities that didn't have internet. So we wanted to put the entire program onto a tablet. We want to make it so that anybody, anywhere can just access everything in one place to make it highly repeatable and accessible anywhere in the world.
I like that you're using technology in a good way, right? You're using it to help reach other people. And that's why I was just curious about the group stuff, because if you have that, I've known a lot of people who just quit, right? Just because on projects like that, because they feel overwhelmed. That's what they say they feel. It just depends on their situation. I like what you're doing to try to have results. And I think maybe think of you, the engineering background, you're a very curious person. So that helps you like pause and look at things, look at all the details, right? Before moving forward. So that is really helpful rather than reacting, right?
Yeah. I'm proud to say I'm a very calm, non-reactive person now. I still feel things. I can still feel angry and hurt, but where it used to be sort of a 9 out of 10 for 9 hours, now it's about a 2 out of 10 for about, I don't know, 2 minutes. But the way I was able to get there is because, again, the system that we developed addresses the root cause and gets you this result, which is that you're free of this. So I'm free of the toxic reactivity. It's sort of my baseline. I call it my default tranquility. And it's because we cared about results. And that's kind of what I want to talk about and share with your audience is sort of two topics that have to do with results. And the first thing I want to share with your audience is a couple insights that may help your audience understand why they're not getting better results with what they're trying, whether it's therapy, whether it's self-help, spirituality, whatever they're doing. I want them to understand why they're not getting better results so that they can, not blame themselves. And then also after that, I'm going to share a few of the key discoveries that my company made that make it possible to get better results so that if your audience wants to solve what holds them back quickly, they at least know the discoveries we made that make it possible. And then um, for the people in your audience that like to experience things firsthand, at the end, I'm going to send your audience to a link to try one of our techniques for themselves. No charge. We just want to give people an experience of what engineering does, inner engineering, and how it can help your audience get results much faster for themselves. How's that sound?
It sounds good. As you were talking, it made me think of you're a leader, you're leading others with to have more courage, right? To make a change. I think that's kind of what the podcast is about as well, is how resilience is connected to creating change. And that's what I see what you're doing. You're leading with some courage and give people some hope, right?
Well, I'm definitely trying to give people hope because there's a lot of people out there that have tried a lot of things and they're still doing their same patterns and behaviors. Then you start to lose hope. But yes, it takes courage to change. But when we built our systems, we really wanted to make it incredibly easy to do and very user friendly. There are things out there that work for people, but it takes an incredible amount of work and devotion and courage. And that's great. But a lot of the world doesn't have courage. A lot of the world doesn't have a ton of time. A lot of the world can't just devote their lives to change. And we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we could make things just so much easier to do so that anybody can do it? Our systems right now are going into high schools and middle schools
Oh, wow.
because we made it simple enough where you don't need courage and you don't need to be working on yourself. I mean, that's great, but wouldn't it be nice if there was just something very user friendly, very easy to do, and just got a guaranteed outcome, which is that you could be free of this stuff? And so the first thing I want people to understand of why, well, what does it mean when I say, that this industry, the improvement industrial complex, doesn't get great results? Well, what that means is $1 trillion a year is spent in the US alone on self help, personal development, spirituality, and psychology and psychiatry. $1 trillion a year. And over the last 50 years, since self help became popular in the US, about $20 trillion has been
Wow.
spent. Now, normally, when you spend $20 trillion, things should get better.
Yes.
But the National Happiness Index is down by 8%. The Life Satisfaction Index is down by 8%. Anxiety has doubled and almost tripled depending on the population. Procrastination is up 400%. I think insecurity and self-esteem is down by about 90%. So I don't know. That's just not great results. It's the only industry that I know of where you spend $20 trillion and people are worse. I mean, what if Apple spent $20 trillion in R&D and then said, ta-da, and gave us 2 cups and a string? You'd think like, well, wait a minute, isn't the money supposed to improve things?
Right.
But this industry takes a lot of money and people in some ways feels worse. That's what I mean by this industry has a results issue. So I kind of want to expose the dirty little secret of why so much money is spent and we either aren't free of what holds us back or we're even feeling worse, and then explain to your audience kind of what they can do to just get better results.
I'm
And I'll
intrigued.
explain what that is. But do you have any thoughts or any questions so far?
No, I'm intrigued to what you're doing. There has been other people have told me they don't trust the industry that you're talking about because they aren't getting results, because they feel like they're throwing money away, and there's no trust, and I think that is probably not helping with anxiety levels. Yeah.
It's not helping, but also I take this so seriously. People are in pain or they have good lives, but they want to live better lives. Our planet is just a collection of the people in it. And we all know that hurt people and healed people healed people. And it really matters to me to develop things so that people can either be free of the pain that they're in or ascend to that next best level. I can't think of anything more meaningful, and just so much stuff out there isn't that effective and leaves people spending a lot of money and time and just stuck in their old patterns. And it bothers me. I'm an engineer. I want to solve things. I want to see people. I'm happy and fulfilled consistently. And I want everyone else to know what that feels like. And the first thing that people should know of why they don't get better results is that this industry primarily it lacks innovation. Most of the concepts out there, and there's good concepts, they're old, meaning, modern psychology is about 100 years old. Duality is about 5,000 years old. These concepts have been around about 5,000 years old. The concepts of personal development were founded by the Greeks about 3,000 years old. And so these concepts are good concepts, but they're not modernized to get better results. There's not a lot of innovation because for the most part, the industry just people learn concepts and then they repackage it and they share it. Whether you're a therapist, whether you're a coach, whether you're a spiritual teacher, you learn these concepts that have been around a really long time and you just pass them along. And the concepts are good, except the concepts as they're applied don't solve anything quickly. And so part of the reason that people don't get results is because these concepts are just repackaged and regurgitated, but there's not a lot of innovation, and you need innovation to get better results. Does that make sense?
Yes, I totally am on the same page with you on that because it's just reworded a little bit and they don't help you get results. It is repackaged. Again, it goes back to trust, I think. Right?
Yep. And the other thing is that, and I've done a lot of research on this because now that we have a system that gets much better results, I've gone to coaches that I know, therapists that I know, teachers that I know, and I say, this results issue, why does this industry not get better results? And several of them were really honest. They said most people who help people usually consider themselves sort of experts in their field, and they learn a certain modality or technique or tools, and they kind of become experts in it. And then they share the tools that they've learned. But what was communicated to me is they kind of make a living by saying, I'm an expert in this area. And they kind of have a bias that they think their stuff is the best stuff. And they're not, their ego is also attached to what they teach. And
Yeah.
they have a really good business based around what they teach. So they're not looking to see, oh, what's the limitation? How is this not getting better results? And why don't I just blow this up until I find something that works better? And so that's why a lot of the things don't work better, because the experts are biased and they're in their comfort zone, just regurgitating stuff. But we as engineers, we weren't attached to any modality. Our ego wasn't attached to anything. We were attached to the idea of a solution. And because we were free to just try all sorts of things and build something that solves things, we were able to do what the experts can't. Experts are great if you want to learn something from an expert. But if you want to solve something, sometimes experts have blind spots because they're biased about their particular thing. What do you think about that, Bridget?
I agree with that. They are blind. I should say blind, but they have blind spots. And you brought up the word, they have a big ego, because that, again, I'm really one of those people that believe in the words that you use affects the meaning. That I guess that's, I'm not an expert in words, but I'm really good at writing and communicating. But that's because I've learned to have people trust me with projects, like you said, solutions. It is on the wording, and you've got to be open to other options. I think that's what it is. I think, again, it goes back to your curiosity as an engineer. Makes you like pause and like look at, okay, what, I'm stuck here. How do I get out? That's how I see what you're doing.
Thank you. Sadly, yes, because we're engineers, because we're scientists and we're trying to solve, we're just open. Whatever works the best. For primarily the people that we trust to help us, again, they're not bad people, but they do have an unconscious bias to just stay in their lane and keep repackaging and regurgitating the thing that they're an expert in. It's good business, but it doesn't usually lead to innovations and a solution. So if you're listening to this, part of the reason that you're not getting better results, part of the reason you're still doing the patterns that you have had your whole life, it's not your fault. You're certainly responsible for yourself, but I will tell you that this industry is notorious for people that aren't able to approach things in a way that is going to innovate and get you better results. It is not, you are not broken. This industry is, and I want people to know that. Okay.
I've had people heard them say, not to me and to others, you got to stay in your lane to be successful. And I don't like that. I guess I don't like being told that, to stay in my lane. Maybe that's just my personality, Daniel, because I was a military brat, right? So I was very curious as a kid, and I think that's really helpful. And I try to bring that out as an adult, but I think that's what it is. I've been approached by this industry for me to be an expert in certain things, but I'm not comfortable, sorry, being that. But it's kind of hard to explain from my perspective. But I don't personally, I want to look at different options, right? Just like I have a specific diet I need to eat because of my background. But I was curious and I learned about all that, met with, certain doctors to figure it out what I shouldn't have. But that's just an example. Like I see nutrition, health coaches, and, I did talk to some of them, but then I went and did my own research. I just, that was I got results and I'm still here. How's that?
That's beautiful. Well, I appreciate you being curious. And another thing that I want your audience to know, a perspective that I didn't know for a very long time, but now know, and I want your audience to know. Again, I'm not here to disparage anybody that helps people, a coach, a therapist, a teacher. They're all trying to help. I'm just trying to educate your audience to perspectives that I wasn't aware of that kept me from getting results. That's what I'm trying to do, is just to educate. And one thing that's really important, that seems so simple, people often miss it, is that usually when we go looking for help for the people pleasing, for the anxiety, for the trauma, for the addiction, for the self-doubt, for the procrastination, usually we're not focused on results, meaning that's not at the forefront of our awareness when we make our decisions of who to work with. When I went to the retreats and got the books and the apps and the teachers, I wasn't thinking, what results will this get? What timeline? I was just going by, oh, my friend said this person's great. I read a book and I really liked the cover. There was a retreat in a beautiful place. I liked the teacher. These were the values that were motivating me, but it didn't occur to me, wait a minute, what's the ROI on this? What are we doing? What's the result that I want? And is this going to get me the results? Now, that's what we do often in other areas. If I take my car to a mechanic, I am focused on results. I know what the issue is. The brakes don't work. What's the result that I want? I want the brakes to work. I'm going to go to a mechanic and I'm going to say, can you do this? What's the timeline? How much will it cost? I'm focused on results. But when it comes to growing and changing, usually we're not thinking about that. And if you're not thinking about results and focus on results, can you see that that's going to affect your ability to choose practitioners and coaches and books that it's going to get you results? Does that make sense?
Yes, there's just so much, also so much information out there right now in our world, a lot of information. And a lot of it is, I say, regurgitated of the same stuff. They just tweak some of the words. I mean, I've seen that. But when you say ROI, I also like the idea, not just return on investment, but return on ideas. That's kind of how I like that, the I word, because there's just not, you know, it's scary. Life could be scary. But then again, you have to, what is important to you? What result, like you said, what result do you want out of this? I kind of mentioned before we record, I had cancer in the past. I still wanted to be here. I wanted to be there for my sons. And I found a solution or ways to help me heal, right? And the doctors were surprised because I followed some of the protocol, but that's just my personality. So I probably was a PETA, just sorry, but that's just
Well, I think it's a good point because usually when we have physical limitations, like what you went through, usually we are results focused primarily. You
yes,
know, we have a certain pain. In your case, breast cancer, and other people have physical pains. We are clear in the issue and we are looking for people to get a certain result. And so we go to people who have gotten the result that we want or doctors or approaches, and we're really results focused and we're measuring. So when it comes to physical limitations, we are results focused, but often when it comes to emotional and spiritual limitations, it's more just on feeling and do I like the teacher, and it's just more, it's not results focused. So one thing your audience, I suggest they look for when you're spending money on a coach or a therapist or buying a book or an app is ask yourself, am I buying knowledge or am I buying a result? Most of the time, when we get a book, when we hire a therapist, when we go to a retreat, usually what we're getting is information or knowledge. Now, information is and knowledge is great, but you can learn a lot and know a lot and still not be free of what holds you back. So knowledge is great. It's great to learn, but knowledge is not results. I spent a lot of money just thinking if I just learned enough, I'd get the result that I want. Not true. So just be aware when you're going to do something and spend money, ask yourself, am I paying for knowledge or am I paying for a result? Does
it
that make sense?
yeah, it also made me think of the word you want to do something that'll make you take action, right? Rather than just sit there and do the same thing over and over again. We have to somehow, I don't know if I should use the word motivate, but sometimes people go to those books hoping they'll be motivated, but I like to think of it as something that's going to make me take action, and that's why maybe your process you'll get to that of what makes you think and take action on something, what needs to change. And I've gotten better at not being a perfectionist now. I mean, I'm not a I don't care attitude anymore. I mean, I didn't go that far extreme, but I kind of go in the middle, if that makes sense. So I try to take action on something rather than and have regrets later for not being too perfect, right?
Good. Action is important no matter what you do. But again, I think it's just really important, or just perhaps for people that want to get better results, ask yourself, is what I'm buying, is what I'm hiring this person or this book or this app to do, am I getting information, knowledge, a tool, or am I getting a result? People that come to work with us, they are seeking results. I had a client, she was a real estate agent from Vancouver, and she spent, I think it was $500,000 on therapists, coaches, retreats, the apps, the books. She did way more. She did all sorts of stuff I hadn't even heard of. And yet her productivity was down. Her procrastination was still there. Her anxiety was still there. The self doubt was still there. And she found out about the work that we're doing. And she said, I want to be free of this. I said, have you hired people based on results, or did you hire people based on like feeling? And she said, honestly, more on feeling. And I said, yeah, I know it's what everybody does. And I said, we're about results. I said, do you want to be free of the procrastination, free of the people pleasing, free of the anxiety? And she said, yes, that's the result that I want. I said, okay, that's what we get. And so she did our full program. And I think it was about week 4. She sent me a message and her people pleasing was pretty much gone. Also, she said, I have felt a level of calm I haven't felt in my entire life. She said, I did yoga and I did meditation for 10 years. She said, I haven't felt this calm consistently after, and it was only a matter of weeks. And that's sort of the power of when you focus on results. I'll share a bunch of more things that your audience should look out for. But what do you think about what I'm sharing?
I like that. It's important. We got to focus on results and not just the feeling. And like you mentioned, stuff with the cancer and the brain tumor was physical, but it was mental. It affected my mentality a little bit. And I forgot what I did, but I try to erase that decade of my life. I'm just kidding. I'm a little sarcastic, but it helped me. It was my son's. That was my result. My result was I found a way mentally and physically to be there for them when they were going to graduate high school. And that's what it is. You've got to find the right people the right program for results, but also the right people to support you if you have them. And I think a lot of people fail because, should say fail, they don't reach because they're not reaching out for help, right? Or they're finding the wrong place. And like you mentioned, the results.
Yes and no. And I push back on this because a lot of people say, well, the reason I didn't change is, I didn't have the support or I didn't follow through. And yes, of course that matters. What I'm here to tell your audience is most of what is sold, no matter if you have people around you, no matter how, if you have support, the stuff just isn't designed very well to solve anything. And that's not your audience's, AA is a very common thing. And I know people that have gone to AA, they have resilience, they have courage, they have a support team. AA has a ridiculously high recidivism rate, meaning people just go back to alcohol.
Okay.
And so we need to stop blaming people. Yes, we are responsible, but I just want people to hold this industry accountable and say, this stuff doesn't work that well. And let's go find things that work better. So yes, we are responsible for our part, but also I just hope people stop and say, wait a minute, this is $1 trillion industry for a reason. The reason it's $1 trillion industry is this stuff doesn't solve anything usually and not quickly. And that is not our fault. We need to hold these practitioners and these teachers and these authors accountable, or at least be aware so that we don't blame ourselves. The other thing that I want people to look for when you hire someone or you go to a retreat or you hire a coach is you want to be clear in what they're going to get you, the result, and you want a precise outcome. There are coaches out there that talk about empowerment. Well, that's great, but what the heck does that mean? Or awaken, or activate, or change, or grow, or transform, or manifest. And these are all these super sexy words, but it's like, that's not what we want. What we want is, oh, I'm a procrastinator. I want to be more productive. I'm anxious. I want to be calm. I'm a people pleaser. I want to be strategically selfish. So find a coach or a teacher or a book or an app that is promising a specific outcome and a specific outcome in a specific timeline. When you hire someone, ask, this is what I want. I want to be free of this. How long will it take? That's what we do at a mechanic. We'll say, how long does this take? If the mechanic says, well, your car is like an onion and we're always peeling back the layers and it's always a journey, you wouldn't think, ooh, sign me up. You'd be like, no, I don't have a lifetime. When will this be done? So you want to find people that can promise a certain outcome in a specific timeline. And also you want to hire people or do approaches that measure how much change in a certain period of time. There's a saying in science that if people aren't getting, if they're not measuring results, they may not be getting results. So you want to hire coaches, you want to do programs where people are measuring, because if they're measuring results, it probably means they care about results and they're getting results. And the other thing you want to do is look for people that back up their results. Because that's when you go to a mechanic, if they can't fix your car, they usually don't charge you. If you hire a contractor and they don't fix your deck, they usually don't charge you. If you hire a landscaper and they don't pick up your leaves, they don't charge you. You
Right.
want to find people that back up their results. If they don't back up their results, odds are they may not be getting you the results. when people come to us, we're very upfront. We tell you exactly precisely what's going to happen. Your procrastination will be gone. Your anxiety will be gone. Your people pleasing will be gone. Your perfectionism will be gone. We also tell you how long it'll take. It's going to take 6 weeks. And as you go through our program, we are tracking your data with our app so that we have data on your change over time so that you have clear, measurable evidence that what you have is gone by the end of 6 weeks. And we back up our results. We're the only company that we know of the million therapists and coaches in the world, we're the only people that we know of where you do not pay at the beginning, because we haven't helped you yet. You only pay at the end of our 6-week program when you have clear, measurable results that what you're struggling with is gone. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. You just want to, again, it goes back to the trust and the value. That's what I look at. And I don't like people, I shouldn't say that, who oversell. I pick up on that too. They try to oversell something. And then because they're doing it for them, not to help others. Is that the right? That's the right how I see it. Yeah, you want to be there to, if you really truly want to help others, it should be about the results and how to measure and how to help you get there. And keeping it simple. I think you mentioned that word earlier in the conversation. I think keeping it simple will help you move forward to make the change that you want to create.
100%. There's a lot of things out there, therapy, self-help, personal development, and they're helpful and they're true, but they're very difficult to do consistently. They're not simple and they're very hard to do consistently. And then when you're inconsistent, you fail, then you feel more broken and you give up, or at least it slows you down. So we thought to help people, we need to make this dead simple so that anybody at any point can, if they work the steps, they get the results. We modeled it after a gym. A gym is very simple. Anybody can walk in. You don't need courage. You don't need a lot of resilience. You just walk up to a machine, you do the reps, and you get the results. And that's how we built what we do. And everything is measurable. And so also, I just want to say that if measurement and measuring results is something that speaks to you, at the end, I'm going to give you access to you try one of our techniques for free. It's called and when you apply this technique, you're going to feel measurably calmer, and the behaviors that hold you back will be measurably less by when you use the technique for one time. So I just want to tell people that.
Yeah, that's good. We want to, I think that's why people like listening to podcasts too, because they're learning about other, I should say solutions, but I talk a lot about change in life. And that's kind of why I started this podcast. And you're helping people help create that change by knowing that they're going to get some results, right? Keeping it simple. That's what I think about. Yeah, that's critical. You mentioned the gym. I'm a runner. I go outside because it's simple. I put on running shoes. I don't want to have to. People love bikes. I don't like having to worry about keeping a bike. You have maintenance on a bike and a helmet and blah, blah, blah. So I just, get new shoes every 6 months for running. That's my example of what helps me stay active.
And the reason it helps you is because, as you said, so much of physical fitness is simple, and ideally it's simple enough that you can be consistent. You may not be consistent, but if you want to lose weight or you want to be healthier or whatever reason, most things in physical fitness are simple and they're doable. You can walk out your front door and you can move your legs back and forth and you can get exercise. You can go to it. It's simple and it's doable. And that is what we found helps people change the fastest when you have something simple and doable. I now want to share sort of the key discoveries that our company made that make all this possible. Because I can sit here and say, okay, results this, results that. But people are usually sometimes listening going, okay, well, how are you getting these incredible results? So can I share that now?
Please.
All right. So here's the first key big discovery that we made that made it possible to get this permanent solution for people in a very short period of time. So first of all, we said this whole industry is very complicated. There's all these different theories on what to do for how long. One person says to walk on coals. One person says you need to be in ice water. One person says it's your past. One person says it's your mindset. One person says it's this. One person says it's that. And it's just not really, it's not simple. And usually in science, if you really know what's going on, you can make things simple. Newton took all of motion on planet Earth and got it down to 3 laws. Einstein took this complicated thing of it and got it down to 2 equations. If you really know something, you should be able to make it simple. So we first wanted to simplify things. And when we went to simplify things, we discovered a key misunderstanding that's keeping people stuck. And for the most part, we are taught, and it feels like we have multiple problems. I have procrastination. I am a procrastinator. I am a people pleaser. I have perfectionism. I have self-doubt. I've got anxiety. I suffer from trauma. It feels like we have multiple problems. And we're usually told that these things are problems of the mind. You know, cognitive behavioral therapy is about cognition, changing your mindset. There's pills to target the neurotransmitters in our brain. It's even called mental health. It's got the word mental. And so usually we're sort of told that we have multiple problems of the mind. However, that's not as true as you might think. So I want to do an exercise to sort of show you this firsthand. To Bridget, and if you're listening to this, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to sort of, as best you can, imagine yourself doing a behavior that you'd like to be free of. Could be anxiety, procrastination, people pleasing, self-doubt, low confidence, perfectionism, whatever it is. And I want you to see yourself doing that behavior.
Okay.
And now I want you to see that on some level, what you're experiencing underneath the behavior, usually there's some fear there. If you're a procrastinator, usually there's a fear of starting or finishing something. If you're a perfectionist, usually there's a fear of making a mistake. If you have low confidence or self-doubt, usually there's a fear of sharing your natural, true, authentic self. If you have anxiety, usually that's just a lot of. So try to see that underneath the behavior, it's just a symptom of fear. And then, if you can, try to see where you experience that fear. Usually you'll feel that fear in your chest, your heart, your throat, your stomach, your gut. But those aren't mind words. Those are actually body words. And so we are told, and it feels like we have multiple problems of the mind. But what our research showed is that most people actually have multiple symptoms of one thing, which is fear that starts in the body. So we don't have multiple problems of the mind. We have different symptoms of fear that originates in the body. What do you think about what I just shared, Bridget?
It's true. I think my perfectionism problem, I don't know where it started from. I feel it like in the heart, like you said, when I think about being in that role. And it's the fear of making a mistake, putting something out there and being judged. That's kind of what you want. That's why you want it to be perfect.
Right. But can you see that if you were told that you have a problem of the mind, but in reality, you have a symptom of the body, can you see that it's going to be hard to get good results if you're sent to the wrong location and you're sent to the symptom level?
Right.
Yeah. So part of the reason people don't get better results is because they were told and taught that they have a problem of the mind. And really, you don't have multiple problems. You have multiple symptoms of fear, which originates in the body. Do you want to know why and where the body is afraid?
Sure.
Well, because we're engineers and we wanted to make things simple, we just said, well, the body is a much simpler place to go looking for solutions. The mind, we really don't understand the mind very well yet. What?
It's complicated. Our mind is.
It's very complicated, and we don't really truly understand it yet. We know there's some neurons and synaptic pathways, but the best we have is these MRI scanners, which you get kind of this like weird, just bunch of colors. We don't understand it very well. It's like deep space, but the body, in some ways, is pretty well mapped out. It's a lot of systems and engineering. You've got the skeleton, you got the arteries, you got the heart, it's all a lot of systems and engineering. And we thought, all right, this is great. Why don't we just find the system that's probably most likely creating fear? And once we just asked that simple question, the answer was really obvious. So take out the word fear and anxiety and just swap in the word nervous. Okay? And just imagine that the whole world is feeling different symptoms of feeling nervous. Okay? If you had to guess the simple answer, what system in the body do you think is most likely malfunctioning and making everybody feel nervous? Do you think it's the skeletal system, the coronary system, or the nervous system?
The
What do you
nervous
think, Bridget?
system. The nervous system.
Why?
Because it's connected to, well, it's to your brain and your heart. I think your nervous system is connected that way to your skeleton too, isn't it? They're all kind of, I don't know that much about the nervous system, but I do know,
You
like,
don't need to know a lot about it, but you just need to know that it's got the word nervous right in there.
yeah,
Wouldn't
it's
that be a
nervous.
prime candidate that that's probably what's making people nervous?
Uh-huh. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's simple. We found that the nervous system, well, it's the nervous system. The nervous system is your body's natural threat response system. And if it's running properly, you feel safe and unafraid. But if it malfunctions, you feel unsafe and nervous, and it creates fear and then symptoms of fear. So what we saw was these behaviors, the procrastination, the anxiety, the people pleasing, the self-doubt. These weren't different problems of the mind. They were really symptoms of a malfunctioning nervous system. So what you struggle with, and what we found, is that these issues, procrastination, anxiety, self-doubt, trauma, a lot of it are not psychological issues. They are nervous system issues. And the reason this is powerful is because it lifts the shame on what's going on. I had a client come to us. She was a teacher from LA, and she had tried all this stuff, basically psychological and spiritual, and she just couldn't solve anything. And she felt so broken. She said, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep repeating these patterns of the past? And when I showed her these are just symptoms of a malfunctioning nervous system, she immediately just went, oh, well, that makes sense. If my nervous system is malfunctioning, I'm going to feel afraid. And then, yeah, that's going to create all sorts of problems. And so even before she had even done our program, it sort of lifted the shame, because she realized she wasn't broken. There wasn't wrong with her. She wasn't weak. She didn't have anxiety. She just had a malfunctioning nervous system. What do you think about what I'm sharing?
Like, that's true. How do you get results to fix it? Right? That's kind of I know a lot of people who share that they have anxiety, and it is related. I just naturally, instinctively, I know it's their nervous system for some reason, but I never really said that out loud until I'm talking to you.
Yeah. I mean, once you hear it, your either intuition or common sense goes, oh, that makes a lot of sense. There's a
Yes,
system in the
yes,
body called the nervous system. Huh.
right.
Now, we're not the first ones. I mean, we didn't come up with the idea that the nervous system matters. There are people that already know about this. It's the fact that primarily when we're sold books and retreats and apps and coaches, they sell us on the symptom. Oh, you are a procrastinator. You have anxiety. Well, that's, I believe, a misdiagnosis. You have a symptom of a malfunctioning nervous system. And I just want people to know that, so that they don't just try to solve this at the symptom level and you go to the root cause. Now, do you want me to explain to you why the nervous system is malfunctioning and creating all the nervousness?
Yes, please understand it better.
So because we're engineers, we're looking for a solution. And one way that engineers and scientists get solutions and things that work better is when they base it on universal laws. Universal laws are things in science that are universal: gravity, friction, the law of thermodynamics. These are things that are irrefutable and always show up. And so when you go to solve something, if you can find a solution based in a universal law, it just simplifies things because we know it to be true. So we just said, well, what are the universal laws of the body that might explain why this nervous system is malfunctioning? And once we asked that question, the answer became pretty clear. There is a universal law of the body and systems in the body. And that is that we are given a physical body for free. We're not charged. We're just given it, which is an incredibly cool thing. We're given eyeballs, we're given a tongue, we're given a heart, we're given an immune system, we're given finger. Like, we're given, how expensive it would be to buy a entire human body with eyeballs and ears and an immune system on like eBay. It'd be very expensive, but we get it for free from the divine. We just get to be human under one law, one guiding principle, which is that you have to take care of the body.
Right.
And one of the things that we have to do to take care of systems in the body is that every system, or many systems in the body, have basic nutrients that it needs to run properly. And you have to get the system the basic nutrients. We need the nutrient of water. We need the nutrient of sleep. We need the nutrient of calories. We need certain nutrients. And if you don't get the nutrients that the body needs, then that system malfunctions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we just said, well, wait a minute. Has anybody ever studied the nervous system and seen if there are basic nutrients that it needs? And the answer was like, not really. And what we saw through the research is that there are 28 total, but 7 main categories of emotional nutrients, not actual nutrients like vitamin D or something like that, but an emotional nutrient that the nervous system needs to run properly. The problem is we're not taught this. We're not taught basic daily nutrition of the nervous system. So let me ask you, Bridget, and the audience, if you have a system that needs nutrition, but you weren't taught to give that system proper nutrition, what's going to happen to that system eventually?
It's going to malfunction. It's going to have a problem.
Exactly. It's going to malfunction, guaranteed. And so, what we saw was because we were never taught to give our nervous system basic nutrition, it is now malfunctioning. When it malfunctions, basically, there's a switch in your body that controls fear. And in a healthy nervous system that runs properly, the fear switch is turning on and off at appropriate times and at appropriate levels. But because our nervous system doesn't get the proper nutrients, it's basically malfunctioning, and the fear switch is stuck in the on position and creating lots of fear that really shouldn't be there, and then gives rise to the symptoms of fear, the anxiety, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the perfectionism, the self doubt, and on and on and on. So, what we saw from the research is the actual what's causing a lot of the problems is that you were never taught to get proper daily nutrition to your nervous system. It is malfunctioning, creating fear, and then the symptoms of fear. What do you think about that, Bridget?
Yes, it is. So how do you feed your nervous system properly or give it nutrition properly? That's what I'm
Well,
thinking.
I'll give you an example, but first of all, what do you think about this just different way of looking at it, that you
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
have procrastination, you just have a system in your body that isn't getting proper nutrition and it's
it,
malfunctioning and creating all these
it's
symptoms.
right.
Doesn't it kind of simplify things?
It does, and it's the fear gets triggered, and that is it's a natural thing for like you said, our bodies are free, but it's a natural thing, fight or flight. That's what I made me think of too, right? Back in the old days, we had and I think that's what the fear is. You're going to react to stuff, and your nervous system's probably connected. Am I wrong?
Well, not wrong. It's sort of what we're saying is the fight or flight should be going on and off when you're actually physically threatened.
Yes, correct.
But because the nervous system hasn't gotten proper nutrients, it's basically in this fragile, constantly on mode. And you can be feeling low levels of fight or flight just sitting on your couch. You can feel low levels of fight or flight because you have a deadline that you haven't met. You can have a low level fight or flight because people may not like you. That's not life threatening, but because the nervous system is malfunctioning, it feels slightly life threatening, creates the fear and then the symptoms of fear. So that's what we're saying is that you're feeling fight or flight, not because you're physically threatened, but because this nervous system
Right.
is
Right. I
malfunctioning.
wasn't saying it was a physical thing. It's just something that's triggered in us. It is the emotions, the wrong or the negative emotions get triggered, right? Maybe if you're
Well, it's close. It's not that it's getting triggered. Well, you could say it's getting triggered. That word gets used a lot. I'm
right,
triggered, but that's an imprecise word and it doesn't explain the mechanics of what's being triggered or why. So
right,
you could call it a trigger, but I believe that doesn't lend itself to a solution. Because if I say, oh, you're being triggered, well, how do you become untriggered? What
right,
we're saying is you're not being triggered. Your nervous system is stuck in the on position when it shouldn't be because it's malfunctioning. You are not triggered. There's nothing wrong with you. Your nervous system is malfunctioning.
right. It needs to be turned off or not
Yeah.
turned off, but turned down. The volume needs to be turned down, right?
The sensitivity needs to be turned down. Yeah. The switch needs to be shut off.
Right,
And the way that we do this is we teach people how to give their nervous system the proper nutrients. And I'll give you an example of a nutrient just to put it in context. One of the nutrients that the nervous system needs to run properly. Okay. And we'll kind of do it in like a little bit of a role play. All right. So to you, Bridget, and anyone listening to this, imagine you're feeling scared and fearful. So on the count of three, turn to me and say, hey, I'm feeling scared and afraid on the count of three. One, two.
feeling scared and afraid.
You know what? Why are you telling me this? I don't, you should not be feeling like this. Get over it. It's not the end of the world. It makes no sense that you're feeling this way. And honestly, I don't want to hear about how you're feeling right now because it's getting in the way of me being happy. So just take your feelings and go somewhere else. If I talk to you that way, are you going to feel less afraid or more afraid?
Probably angry. Well, it depends on the situation. More afraid and a little anger would kick in for me if you're.
Yeah, you'll feel more afraid. Okay, so now do it again. Turn to me and say, hey, I'm feeling scared and afraid on the count of three. One, two.
I'm feeling scared and afraid.
Thank you so much for telling me. I'm so glad you told me. I don't like you to feel this way, and it makes sense that you feel this way. And I'm here for you, and we are going to figure this out together as a team. If I talk to you that way, are you going to feel less afraid or more afraid?
Less afraid because you're calm. You had a calm response.
Well, I'm calm, but also I'm giving you one of the key nutrients that the
Right.
nervous system needs, and that nutrient is listening.
Yes. Yes.
One of the key nutrients that the nervous system needs daily is it needs listening. So that's an example of one of the nutrients. Again, there's 28 and 7 main categories. And actually, at the end, I will give the average person naturally does about a third of the nutrients just naturally, but it's the ones you're not doing that gets you into trouble. And actually, at the end, I'll send your audience where they can get a list of the 7 categories of nutrients. We call it the nervous system nutrient map. They can download that and see which nutrients you are giving yourself and which ones you're not. It's the ones that you're not doing that can get you into trouble. And just so we're clear, don't think that you can just listen away your procrastination or listen away your anxiety. The reason we're able to get the results that we do is that we have multiple tools working simultaneously. But also, it's not just the concepts, it's the engineered application to get the results. So if you're sitting there going like, oh, I do listen to my feelings, or I already know about listening, it's not about the concepts. It's about the multiple tools working together in a systematic engineered application that can solve your procrastination, anxiety, or whatever it is. So just to be clear for you out there going like, I already knew about listening. Yes, you know about the concept, but there's a difference between the concept and the outcome.
You actually have to do the work, right? Or I should say do the work, but you actually have to participate in um, these emotional nutrients, adding them to your body. It's kind of how I see
Well,
it.
you not only have to participate, but again, it helps to have a system and a structure that makes that simple
Make it
and do.
and
That's what we help people with.
right, simple and trying to be consistent is helpful.
Yeah. Otherwise, things can get very confusing. You're not sure how to do it, for how long to do it, when to do it. And also, you can't just do listening. It's about applying all the nutrients at the same time with multiple tools in one place, the instructions. That's how we get the result in 6 weeks, where what you're struggling with is solved. Not just the concepts, it's the structured, systematic application. So basically, if you know all the nutrients that your nervous system needs and you can apply it in a structure, what happens is your nervous system gets the nutrients that it needs, and then the fear switch essentially just turns off. And I want you to sort of see what that would feel like because it can really change how you see your struggle and what's possible. So, to Bridget, and if you're listening to this, I want you to close your eyes again, or just imagine this. Imagine yourself again doing the behavior that you imagined earlier: procrastination, people pleasing, perfectionism, anxiety, whatever it is that you'd like to be free of. And I want you to try to see that there's some fear underneath the behavior. Can you see that if the fear switch in your body shut off, can you see that the behavior, the symptom of the fear, would either go away or significantly go down? Can you see that?
Yeah, it would go down for me.
Yeah. And what do you think about that insight?
And that's good. I mean, it's some people say it's normal to be a little to put something out there publicly. To be, I shouldn't say a little nervous about it, but because you're worried about being judged. It's some people are also impressed that you're doing it. So you have to click from that, right? Get the feedback from other people. That's why you want to give feedback to others who are doing projects. That's kind of how I see it. I'm listening to them. I'm one of those kind of people.
So what I'm hoping people take away from again is that what they're experiencing, these behaviors that are keeping them from their full potential, being happier, being more authentic, that these are symptoms of your fear switch being stuck in the opposition, and that if we could shut the fear switch off by getting the nervous system the nutrients, your life just gets better. You're more free, you are happier, you're more present, you're more authentic, you're more successful. And I know that all sounds good, but again, we care about giving people an experience that where they have a result. So again, at the end, when we wrap up in a bit, I'll send you a link where you can try one of our techniques. It's called the fear mechanism turnoff technique. You can try the technique yourself. It's about 5 minutes, and you will not only feel your fear switch start to turn off, but you will then see the behavior, which is a symptom of your fear, basically start to fade and disappear instantaneously. How's that sound?
That sounds good. And I think people will appreciate, especially I see it. I don't watch the news, but a lot of people have negative response to all that. So they probably need this in this day and age, to be honest with you.
And what do you think they need about that?
What do they need? Well, they to reduce the fear and to not focus on things they don't have control over. That's another thing that that's my instinct. I try not to worry about, I've learned to not worry about things that I don't have control over.
Well, that's good. That's a very important thing. Now, one thing I want to share with your audience, because I know your audience, they're pretty savvy. They've done a lot of self-help, personal development, therapy already. And, what I'm sharing with your audience is these are concepts. And your audience knows a lot of concepts. The value to your audience of this particular concept, this idea that what you have is symptoms of a malfunctioning nervous system from poor nutrition, is this particular approach makes things solvable and doable. Meaning, if you were never told to drink enough water and you were dehydrated, you'd have all sorts of symptoms from brain fog to migraines to fatigue to even death. And if you'd ever learned to drink more water, you could have those symptoms your entire life. But if one day you just learn, oh, I need to drink enough water, that's a doable solution. You can just drink water. And if you get the system, the nutrients it needs, the system comes back to health and the symptoms fade away. So the value of this particular approach is that it lends itself to a fast, permanent solution. But it's also because it's not just the concept, it's the 8 years of engineering and testing and refining to build a system to get a specific focused outcome. There's a lot of concepts out there, from my past defines me to society to mindset to ego to faith. There's a lot of great concepts that have truth in them, but they won't help you quickly solve a specific pain point. This approach of the nervous system and getting at nutrition along with the engineering means that if you have procrastination, in a matter of weeks, it's gone and you get to be productive. If you're a people pleaser, it is gone. So you get to basically make yourself a priority. If you're a perfectionist, it's just gone. I live this every day. I wake up every morning. I can't procrastinate. It doesn't even occur to me. It doesn't even occur to me to care what people think of me. I've been consistently calm for 10 years in a row. That's the power of this particular approach with the engineered application. So I just want to be clear on that, because I think that's what people want, is to be free of this stuff so that they can fulfill their potential, be better business owners, be better partners, be better parents. They don't want to spend a lifetime, I don't think, just spending a lifetime always learning about and managing. I think they want to be free of this stuff. What do you think?
Like that. You don't have to manage it. You're free of it. It goes away. Bye. Right. That's makes it life a little easier.
Little easier. Like,
A lot
I
easier.
cannot tell you
I was just saying,
how good my life is. You get, when this stuff is solved, when it's solved, and I'm speaking from firsthand, life is so much easier without all these fear-based symptoms. We are not meant to function with low to mid to high level fear running through our bodies. It will completely derail your entire experience. And so if we can, when we help people just turn off the fear switch, their lives get so much better. I'm thinking of a guy recently, very successful business owner, procrastination, which led to anxiety, which led to poor sales, which affected his productivity. But then when he got home, he wasn't present. So he wasn't being the father he wanted to be. He wasn't being the husband he wanted to be. He'd spent a lot of money on coaches and therapists and he felt trapped. He felt broken. He felt like he was stuck in this prison that he couldn't get out of. And now I just got a message from him like 2 months ago. He said he's so much more productive. He's so much calmer, but most importantly, he's just much happier and more fulfilled in getting to be the parent and the partner that he's always wanted to be. This is what people want. And it becomes a hell of a lot easier when you're not low level scared all the time.
Right. Right. People need to hear more about this type of results and not just a program, not just throwing your money out the window. We just need to help us, you know, live our life that we want to live. Like you said, everybody's a little different. Everybody has a different future, different background, but focus on what's important to you. That's another thing I like to talk about. What's important to you. And you'll find out, right? It sounds like when you control, I should say control, you turn off that fear switch. That'll help you live a more productive life, right?
Yeah.
So,
Basically, doesn't that just sound simple?
yeah, I like the word simple. I like the word, I shouldn't say easy. Simple makes it easier too down the road. In the beginning, you do have to put some work into it and a little bit of practice, but then it becomes automatic, right? Maybe that's another thing. Automatically, you'll learn to turn off that fear switch to make sure you're giving your nervous system the right nutrients.
Well, just to be clear, you don't have to learn. You
Right.
just have to get the nutrients to the
And
system, and the system
do it.
becomes healthy. Yes, you have to learn. That's what we teach you. But once you bring it back to health, life just gets easier. If you break your leg and then you put a cast on and it heals, you don't have to spend a lifetime worrying about your leg. It's solved. That's what we're trying to get people. We don't want to spend, we don't want, our program is 6 weeks. You come in, you bring your nervous system back to health, fear switch shuts off, and you get to live a happier life. Easy, quick, fast, pedo.
That. And I like the number 6. It's a good number. I don't know why I like that number. So, where can people learn more about your organization, Daniel?
Well, I'm going to send them to the link because I want them to just try
Okay.
what we do firsthand because that's the best thing. But I will want to say, I get that, I get if your audience is listening to what I'm saying, they're probably thinking, okay, this makes sense. But I understand that your audience is skeptical. They've heard a lot of concepts in the past where somebody told them, oh, just do this and everything will be solved. And so your audience has been consistently overpromise and underdeliver, and it's hurtful and it's disappointing, and they have a lot of broken trust. And so that's why for no charge, we offer this to try one of our techniques, which is to try, it's 5 minutes. It's called the fear mechanism turnoff technique. And when you try that technique, you'll have an experience that you can trust and know if this will work. But why you would go get that technique and try it is because if you're curious, if anything I've shared has made you curious. And what I basically shared in recap is that you have these behaviors that you've had your whole life and you want to be free of them, but you're not able to solve it, not quickly. And I'm claiming that we have an approach that allows you to be free of these things in a short period of time with a high success rate. And then it's measurable and repeatable. And the way we're doing that is basically saying that what you're experiencing is not a separate problem. These are symptoms of fear that's coming from the nervous system because the nervous system is not getting proper nutrition. And what we're saying is if you understand, and we'll teach you, give the nervous system proper nutrition, basically, then the nervous system comes back to health, the fear turns off, and then the symptoms of fear starts to vanish. And so if anything that I've shared so far has made you at least curious to see if this could maybe work for you, then I'm going to send your audience to danielpackard.com/real. This podcast is Real Things Living. So just my name, danielpackard.com/real, REAL. Also, there's probably a link in the show notes, and that will take you where you can try one of our techniques, the fear mechanism turnoff technique, or if you're not up for that, you can download the nervous system nutrient map to see which nutrients you are getting yourself and which ones you're not. And that'll be really informative. So either way, go to danielpackard.com/real or look in the show notes and try one of our techniques and see for self and just see how much better life can be and how fast your life can change with a bit of proper engineering. How's that sound?
That I like how you're using your engineering background. You're using it properly. Your purpose in life, Daniel, is to help everybody to understand how to give your nervous system the proper nutrients. And for those that are listening, I will include the link that Daniel mentioned. And thank you so much, Daniel. And for those that are listening, if you're driving, just wait to read everything later. We want to be safe. Thank you again.